name's Jeremy Lazarus. I'd like to talk to you about presentations, or more specifically, how to structure a presentation. Now, why would it be useful for you to learn about this? Well, if you are a salesperson, you will often be presenting your products or services to prospective clients. If you work in an organization, increasingly as people get promoted, they're expected to do presentations to larger and larger audiences. So one of the key factors if people want to really progress in their career is to be able to present to audiences really effectively. What other reasons? If you are, let's say, a sports coach, there'll be times when you want to present your ideas to your team. Or maybe you're seeking funding. So you'll be presenting your ideas to prospective sponsors. What other examples are there? In fact, you can probably think of your own examples. Apply it to your own situation. Why might it be useful for you to be able to present or rather structure a presentation really effectively? So, hopefully you've got enough reasons why this is going to be really useful for you. Now, in my experience, people will often say, structuring a presentation is really easy. You just tell them what you're going to tell them, you tell them it, and tell them what you've told them. Easy. Well, telling them what you're going to tell them may take a minute or so. Telling them what you have told them at the end, maybe a minute or two, maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes even. It's the bit in the middle that causes many people a challenge. How do they structure the meat of the presentation, the longest part of the presentation? How do they do it? Well, I'm going to give you a structure which I've been using since 2000. I'm not going to go into the theory or the reasons behind it. If you want to read up more on it, scroll down and you'll see some references and some links and you can get some more information. So once you've given them an introduction as to the topic you're going to be covering, the key thing is to talk about why this topic is useful to the audience. Because the audience is normally going to be sitting there thinking, what's in it for me to listen to this presenter? So if you go back to what I was covering on this video, I mentioned to you, for example, selling or getting promoted in your work or your career, or being a sports coach presenting to your team or seeking funding, or for you to find out or think about reasons why it'd be useful for you. The intention of doing that was so that you would feel motivated and engaged. Because for an audience, if they're engaged and can see how this particular material is going to be useful for them, then as a presenter, your audience are almost putty in your hands. It makes it much easier. And one of the biggest mistakes that most presenters or many presenters make is they don't engage the audience initially. They don't cover why this topic is going to be useful. They don't give any signposting as to what's going to be covered. They just go straight into the facts and figures. So once you've done the overview and signposted where you're going and given enough reasons why it's going to be useful for the audience, then go into the facts, the figures, the information, the theories, the steps, the processes, maybe even do a demonstration. You can give them the information because they know how important it is to them, or rather why it's important to them, and they know where you're going with the presentation because you've signposted it. Now, often in a presentation, that section is the longest part of it, the facts and the figures, etc. Once you've done that, so they've been listening to you for quite some time, it's important that you give them an opportunity to do something. So whether that's on a training course, get them to do an exercise. Even in a more formal setting, get them perhaps to pair up or do it in small groups. If they're in sort of cabaret style presentation where they're on tables, get them to do an exercise related to the topic you're talking about. Even if it's asking them to think how they might use it, or some of the challenges, or whatever it might be, get them to do something. Once you've done that, once you've finished that section, then you go into the Q&A. You debrief what's happened. You ask questions, what they learned, how did they think about it, how was it for them, what would they do differently next time if it was, for example, a training course. You would also want to talk about how they can use what they've learned or what they covered in the discussion, how they can use it outside of the training room or after the presentation. So if you like, the final section is the, if you like, the bridge between what's happened in the training room or the presentation room and the outside world. It's really important that people get time to reflect and consider how they're going to use the material. So just to recap, give an overview, maybe give a signpost as to what's going to be happening and what you're going to cover, then get into the reasons why this is useful for them, which can come from you and or them. Sometimes it's useful for them to reflect for themselves why it's useful. So after you've done the why, the reasons why it's useful, then give them the facts, the figures, the real information, the nuts and bolts of it. Do the audience participation and the exercise, get them to actually do something, and then have a Q&A and a what's next, or how you're going to take it forward from here. And if you follow that presentation structure, you'll find that this will be really helpful to you. And also, if you happen to get asked to do a presentation at very short notice, this is a structure that you can use really effectively. Thanks very much indeed. If you'd like to find out more about this, then click on the link that you'll find in the description below this video. If you'd like to hear about my new videos as soon as they're released, then click on the subscribe button. And I'd really appreciate it if you would click the like button so that it would be easier for others to find the information too. And of course, click on the share button so that your friends on social media can watch this video. Finally, if you have any questions about anything whatsoever related to this video, please contact me. Thanks very much indeed.